Hey, Shalom. Welcome back to Hebrew Literacy. Here we have another directed Hebrew immersion day. You can just listen and learn if you don't want to burn your eyeballs out staring at the screen, or you can look at the colors and stuff that I have here that are supposed to help with the learning process, help you to remember things and to see patterns. One moment. Sorry, I had to evict someone. All right. So if you're new to the channel, don't worry if it's all Hebrew to you and you don't understand everything. It's okay. You'll get it over time. We are all about a directed approach, and it's good, especially if you think you have trouble learning languages and stuff. No problem. You can just do it a little bit at a time. All right? So stick with us. You'll get there. Avinu Malkeinu, todah lecha lechol sheyesh bo achshav. Tishlach na, Abba, et be'achot tov mimecha mishamayim mima'al al kol shomei et koli. אם רצונך אדוני, גם תברך אותנו, וגם את כל קהילתנו, וגם את כל תלמידיי, וגם אותי אדוני. כי אנחנו אוהבים אותך, וגם אנחנו אוהבים ללמוד את דבריך. לעולנו, לעולנו, ולך יהיה כל הכבוד. Okay, let's get started. Maybe make a slight adjustment here. Let's see. Nope. Okay, that's why. Okay, hope you can hear me okay. So, the first verse I've broken into two parts, all right? So you'll see we have on the screen, this is Judges chapter 5, verse 8, Aleph. Okay, that's Aleph. I don't remember if I think I wrote B on the next one instead of bait. Oh, but you can hear how the Greek beta sounds like Hebrew bait, right? They all come from the Phoenician originally, the letters in the alphabet. Okay, so let's just scan this first part. Yivchar Elohim Hadashim Az Lachem Sha'arim. And there's an etnahta here, in case you're wondering that. Is this special little guy? Jeez. Oh yeah, I forgot some of you like me to move the head around, right? So let's see. Oh yeah, okay. Well, we'll bring it to me. Bring the mountain instead. So that guy there, I'm almost smelling it. That is the etnahta. And when you see that, this guy tells us we are at the end of a clause in a verse. So you can have more than one etnahta. And don't flame me. Some people call it atnach. Some say atnahta. Anyway, whatever. That's just how I learned it. So it kind of marks the end of a thought. The Talmud teaches us that this guy owns all the words before him. Like that's one way to think about it. Okay. All right, let's translate word by word. Yivchar. So bacha, if you're just listening, it's beit, chait, reish. This word means choose. Choose. And the yi at the beginning, the yi, yivchar means he will choose, or he chooses. Elohim, that's our noun, and the adjective presumably is chadashim. So Elohim, usually we can translate this as gods, or there's some other possibilities, right? I mean, there's some places where it may make more sense to translate as judges, right? And that's a little bit controversial on that. Etymologically, I don't see the evidence, but you could see why the sages in some places chose for that to understand that as judges. And then chadashim is our adjective, right? Usually the adjective follows the noun in Hebrew if it's not like some declarative thing like judges are new, right? Something like that. So saying new judges or new kings, pardon me, new gods, new members of the spiritual realm. That's what Elohim is. This could be angels, right? So Elohim, chadashim. Elohim, gods, chadashim, new ones. Okay. So this is kind of a much canvassed section of scripture. Different scholars from different walks, they disagree about what is going on here, right? So let's look at some of those possibilities. So let's see, where are we? Okay. So, Yivchar. the subject of Yibchar is what? Well, it could be Elohim, right? If it's Elohim, as in even though that's a plural, right? It's not El or Eloah. Elohim technically is a plural, even though it's one of the words that we use to describe the one true God of Israel, right? He's Elohim. He's God, right? And for the lefty types who like to argue that the nation of Israel over time developed monotheism out of a different theism. I don't want to go into all the different terms, henotheism, polytheism, etc. They they will argue that, well, the proof is in the pudding with the word Elohim, because it's got the im plural ending at the end, right? And so that's like the evidence. It's gotta be, right? But what's interesting about biblical Hebrew is that when we have the subject, if it is Elohim, meaning our God, then the verb will be in the singular, just like this one is here. Yivchar. He chooses, or he will choose. Right? So if Elohim is the subject, then it has to be the one true God, the Israelite concept of God, which is monotheistic. Okay. If it were plural, it would have said Yivcharu. There would have been an oo at the end, meaning they, because it would have to agree. The verb would need to agree with the noun. You see where I'm going? So there's your answer. If anybody ever throws that at you, some kind of absurd notion that it was a polytheistic society and then it became monotheistic, etc., etc., etc. No. From the founding, monotheism. From Avraham and onwards, monotheism. Somebody argue even his father, if we keep the midrash out of it, even. So, all right. The other possibility is that this is talking about Israel, because in the previous verses, Devorah, in her poem, was speaking about Israel. So it could be that Israel who is choosing. What is he choosing? Elohim Chadashim. Well, that's not great, is it? New gods. New gods. And then you'll kind of see what happens as a result of that. That's a possibility. Oh, back to the possibility of it being God who's the subject. If God is the subject, then the question is, what is he choosing for Chadashim? What are those Chadashim? What exactly are they? As an adjective, if we're using it substantively, like we would expect it to be Chadashot, because it's not modifying anything, like new ones, right? Like new what? New leaders, perhaps, right? If it's supposed to be like new or like just new peoples or whatever, we would expect Chadashot if there's no adjective there, no noun there. And this is, I believe, Sasson's argument. Sasson, Dr. Sasson. So, what is it? What's happening? Well, you'll just have to decide yourself. You can choose the one you like. See what you think. Okay. I I think probably it's complaining about Israel choosing new gods, but as Bowling mentions, this verse is he thinks maybe kind of mangled, or at least it appears mangled. Although with just one little change, we can make a lot more sense out of it coming up. All right. Oz, Aleph, Zion, not the Wizard of Oz, is like when or then. Okay. What happened? So some of you may be familiar, especially if you've been with me for a while, with this note or from our own Kahal. This is a symbol that I use to mark a word in my own Bible notes that we should try changing the vowels on. The little nicodes, the little dots and tittles, right? I want to try changing those on them because it's not exactly making a lot of sense the way it is. So if you look at it, if it says lachem or lachem, then it would be it would be like lechem in pause, right? In pause, but that doesn't work with the munach. If you don't have to know this, but this is munach. Munach, this guy here. Okay. It would make sense to be lachem if it was over here. The lechem could have become lachem, right? Because of the extra oomph that this special guy gives you. So is it bread? If it's bread, then it should be repointed as lechem in a construct state with she'arim, right? Perhaps being se'arim. So this dot would have to move. If you're new to the channel, sorry, it's a little bit complicated today's teaching. We would have a dot. I'll do it in gray. We would have a dot here instead. That kind of thing can happen. שערים, which would mean barley, right? So the translation could mean something like Yivchar, he chooses, like a present ongoing because it's imperfect, doesn't have to be future. Who's the who? Israel. Elohim Chadashim, new gods. Oz, when or as Lechem Tzarim, as barley bread, or as one, presumably one chooses barley bread. You know, like, I'll get this one instead. I'll have the barley bread. So that's kind of the accusation, perhaps. Now, there are a couple good suggestions, and this is both from Bowling. I give him the credit because I'm going to share with you the quote, but also Sasson. In Sasson's commentary, they both suggest the same pointing from this, and neither one giving credit to anybody else. So I presume it was kind of obvious to these scholars what it should have been. And not to claim any kind of greatness, but I was thinking it's probably the verb lacham, to fight, right? Some form of the verb lacham. And that's what they're going to choose as well. So let's see. We're going to see Bowling comments. Then they fought in the gates, right? So sharim by itself means gates. That's no problem. We don't have to change the pointing. Masoretic text then was bred of the gates. kind of unintelligible. Yivchar Elohim Chadashim. So either God chooses new ones, right? Is choosing new ones, or will choose new ones, or Israel chooses Elohim Chadashim, new gods. There's actually some other possibilities, but I just want to present the two that make the most sense rather than all the possible permutations. Oz, Lechem Se'arim, right? Instead of Lachem, we have to change the pointing there too as well, right? So, as Bowling comments, it becomes intelligible by vocalizing as a call perfect. Instead of Lachem, we get Lachamu, Lachamu, Lachamu. So, if you're watching the screen, I've highlighted those letters, La, and U, and then an example in Hebrew, it'd be, as you can see on the screen. If you're watching, you don't have to watch, it's okay. Lachamu. Lachamu, for those listening. Lacham is to fight. To fight. Although usually to fight shows up in a niphal. But this is poetry, and she does have some other weird dialectical issues going on. Devorah does. So who knows? This could be the correct way. So lachamu, they fought. Sha'arim. So sha'arim presumably would be bish'arim, right? So I'm just going to write a little bait there to show what the understanding is. Which again, no problem in poetry to drop a bait if you want to. So at gates, or actually maybe even ba, maybe even ba. Oh, so go back over. Oh yeah, one of my notes I'd forgotten to put up before, showing that lachamu maps to lacham, lachem. And by the way, the u at the end, the Masoretes to correct for that, if they had meant to correct for that, they would have just put 3 dots underneath the mem, right? They wouldn't have written out the full shurik vav, right? The presumption is it would be written defectively without the vav. Okay. So let's see. Be, it's going to be ba sharim. Ba, okay. Ba sharim. At, that's the be, are the sharim, at the gates. Okay? Any comments or questions? Okay, so instead of stopping here and doing another lesson, I don't really like to split verses if we don't have to, unless they're like really long. So I think we're just going to continue and have one long lesson today, if you don't mind. If it's too long for you, feel free to just stop now. This is a good stopping point, and you can come back in later. Besides, the topic indexers will definitely mark 15 aleph or 15, pardon me, 8 verse 8 aleph, and then 8b or 8 beta. I keep wanting to say beta or 8 bait. And you can follow up on that. You can have that one next. Okay, you can. Chapter 5, verse 8b. Some part of the fairly long verse. Okay, let's, instead of using the arrow, let's use, we could do the hand, like talk to the hand. Oh, this could be interesting. Hold on. I have an idea. Nah, let's use the head. Head's more interesting. Oops, clicked the wrong thing. All right, continue on. The dot, 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 that's where the other verse ended, okay? I mean, the other half of the verse. Magain. Im yira'eh v'romach be'arba'im elef be'Yisrael. All right, so let's translate that. So the first one, Magain, Mem, Gimel, Nun, if you're just listening, this means a shield. Generally, it's the kind of shield you would hold up on your arm, like a circular shield that was not so heavy. So you could have a short sword in one hand and the shield in the other. So you block, you parry, blow, hit the other guy like that. That's a Magen. The other kind of shield that you'll come across is a tzina, tzina, tzadi yod nun hey, which is a full body shield, like it would cover the whole body, which is really great. Arrows coming in, all right, put your tina in front of you, or if the arrows are like more forward like, and you're covered, your whole body's protected with that kind. All right, so probably more for archers and types like that. Well, I'm not sure. If anybody knows, let me know who used the tina. So magen, shield, im, aleph mem. Now on the surface, this looks like if, right? Im means if. But it just isn't going to make sense in the verse this way. So I'm just going to share with you from a commentary I was checking out what does make sense. Okay. This is an emphatic negative use of the im. Emphatic negative. So when you have emphatic negative with im, that's going to say like neither magan, neither shield, nor yera'eh. Yera'eh. So the verb is ra'ah. Reish, Aleph, Hey, which makes sense. We're used to these. Reish, Aleph, Hey, that's to see. And then when you've got the Yod telling you it's he sees, but it's a niphal. It's a niphal. And you can tell that. Let me zoom in a bit. Okay. So if you see this, if you're watching, if you're just listening, you can hear the yay. Yay! Yay! The yay, the tzere, this guy, this is because we're in the niphal. So you would have expected the noon to be prefixed on the verb before the yod. So yin, and here I have a little baby noon, so you can see what's going on there, right? But instead of that happening, what happens is, oh, I got to zoom out so I can show my animation. I guess it doesn't want to work when I'm zoomed in. So hourglass. Well, that ain't good. Okay, it went away. Yay. So here we go. Watch the tzere if you're watching. If you're watching. So the noon, he is, if you can believe it, if you can accept it, the noon, the disappearing noon, is the second dot in our tzere. Because usually we begin with ye. The noon could not assimilate into the resh. So instead of having a dot in the resh, it comes down and here's our dot there. Boom. Okay? So very helpful if you're a visual learner for that part. But if you're auditory, instead of ye, it's yay. It got lengthened. You can hear that's longer, right? Yay! Long applause. Much longer than yeah. Okay. By the way, speaking of yay, if you haven't watched the Trump State of the Union address, you got to watch it. You got to listen to it. It's just masterful, just masterful and humorous and very entertaining and just yeah, I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. Assuming there's no lefties studying biblical Hebrew. I mean, I suppose you could have some doing it, but so you can be mad if you're like, what do you expect? People who believe that the whole beeping, bleep, the whole beeping babies thing, okay? Not good. All right, so varomach, va and romach or romach, and this is a kind of like a lance, or some say javelin or an elongated spear. Okay, I'm going to stick with lance, right? Varomach and Romach. Be'arbaim. So wait, Magen, neither shield nor Romach was seen. See, that's what we're saying here. The niphal is the passive of to see, was seen. It again, if you read im as if, it's just gonna be confusing. Shield, if, was seen, and a lance. It's kind of difficult, right? It's kind of difficult. So let's stick with the emphatic negative understanding there. Im is one of those words that is really highly syntax driven. You really need the syntax to know what's going on with it. And that's just how it is. All right. Be, in, or with, arba'im. Now, if you don't know this word, but you know arba, which is four, whenever you put im on the end of a number, it almost always is like adding a zero, right? So 4, im, 0. So 40. Arba'im. Shalosh is 3. Shaloshim, 30. Right? Chamesh, 5. Chameshim, 50. Shesh, 6. Shishim, 60. Sheva, 7. Shivaim, 70. Shmoneh, 8. Shmonaim, 80. Tesha, 9. Teshaim, 90, etc. And that gets weird with 100, but okay. Mea, in case you're wondering. All right. So Arba'im, 40. Elef, Aleph, Lamed, Fe is 1,000. 40,000. Yisrael, in Israel, among Israel. How'd you do? I'm going to go back to the beginning and I will read and you try to translate the best you can before I do, okay? Try to translate. Oi, that's not what I wanted. Ah, hold on. Why did you do that? Okay. It's not going back to the previous slide, so we're having a little bit of a technical thing. I was trying to talk my way through it. I'll use the power of pause. There we go. And we're back. So, Yivchar, Elohim. So that could be Elohim chose. God chose Chadashim, new ones, right? As in like new leaders or something. Or Yivchar, he chose, referring back to Israel from a previous verse. Elohim Chadashim, new gods. Oz, then or when. And instead of lachem, we understand it to be lachamu. They lachamed. They fought. And then the text just says she'arim, which means gates, but we will understand it poetically as ba she'arim. Be, in or at, ash, the she'arim gates. Continuing, verse 8b. Magain, shield, im, if. So we're not going to say that. We're going to emphatic and understand it as emphatic negative. So neither shield nor, and the next word comes up after the verb. Okay, so we'll get there in a sec. Ye ra a. Ye ra a was seen. Varomach nor a lance. So neither shield nor lance was seen, or spear was seen. Be'abaim, among 40, elef, 1,000, Israel, in Israel. And actually, I'm going to understand this, since she's using old language and being poetic, this might be one of the cases where bait is going to mean from. From. You might be saying, what? It can mean from? Hey, don't blame me. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm going to translate this as from, because I think that makes more sense here. From Israel, right? Saying that the soldiers, they're just normal guys. They picked up whatever they had. They picked up like pots and pans and they're fighting with that kind of stuff. They didn't have magen or a romach, right? And there might even be a little subtle hint here about the whole Elohim Acharim, because one of the ways that we refer to God is Magen Yisrael, shield of Israel, right? So there could be something to that. Okay. How'd you do? You guys do okay? All right, so I'm going to read through one more time. I think that's probably enough, right? I have other verses prepared, but I think we'll stop with this once we finish reading. Let's read through one more time, and just do your best to understand. I'm only going to read it now without any of the special tones or anything. Yivchar Elohim Chadashim Az Lachem, which we understand as probably Lachamu She'arim. Magen Im Yera'eh V'Romach ב-40,000 בישראל. How'd you guys do? Any comments or questions? So special shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much, guys. If you like the work we're doing here, please seriously consider supporting it. We do have bills, and that's all I'm going to say about that. The link is down below, and there's other ways to send support if you like in the description below. Please leave a comment or question, whatever you like. And I will see you guys tomorrow for our study of 1 Kings. Remember, this week is Purim coming up. So I will see you then as well. Shalom, shalom.